Greetings, cinema and AI lovers. Welcome to the new episode of Artificial Intelligence. How are you? We want to inform you that this episode may contain spoiler.
Hi there. Great to be diving into this one. Today, we're doing a really deep exploration of a pretty unique piece of sci-fi history, the 1980 PBS TV movie, The Lathe of Heaven.
Based on the Ursula K. Le Guin novel from '71, right?
Exactly. And it's fascinating not just as an adaptation, but as, well, a case study in doing these huge reality-bending ideas with almost no money. It's sort of an early look at technological control, what we might call an AI proxy today.
Absolutely. So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to unpack how this incredibly low-budget film visualized things like, changing reality itself, memory, even Taoist philosophy, all within the limits of 1980s public television.
And the backstory is just as interesting. It came out of WNET in New York, part of their experimental TV lab. I mean, you think about that serious, brainy science fiction on PBS. That was rare.
Definitely not your typical PBS fare back then?
No. But the directors were kind of perfect for it. David Loxton and Fred Barzik. These guys weren't standard filmmakers. They were pioneers in video art. They knew how to use the TV medium itself in creative ways.
Hadn't they done something similar before with Vonnegut?
Yeah, exactly. They'd adapted Kurt Vonnegut's Between Time and Timbuktu back in '72. So they were already thinking about how to translate complex literary stuff using, abstraction and metaphor, not big special effects.
Which they absolutely needed here, given the budget. I mean, when we say low budget.
It's astonishingly low.
Yeah.
Around $250,000.
Yeah.
Which, even for 1980, for a feature-length sci-fi story, that's tiny.
And they shot it in just 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks. That kind of pressure, that restriction, it basically forced them to be clever. It shaped the whole aesthetic. They had to go for ideas over spectacle.
But what really grounds it, I think, is Le Guin's own involvement. She wasn't just, selling the rights and walking away.
Not at all. She was right there involved in casting, planning the script, rewriting parts, even on set during filming. Her being there really protected the core ideas, the philosophy of the book.
So even with the, let's be honest, sometimes charmingly low-budget effects.
Yeah, the rubber suit aliens, yeah.
The intellectual weight is still there because she made sure of it.
Exactly.
Okay, let's set the scene a bit more. The cast is pretty key, too. Bruce Davison plays George Orr. He's the guy with this, terrifying ability.
Right, the effective dreams. And he's so passive, he just wants it to stop, which contrasts perfectly with Kevin Conway as Dr. Haber.
Haber, the ambitious honorologist that's a dream specialist, for anyone unfamiliar with the term.
Yep. Haber sees Orr's power not as a curse, but as this incredible tool. He's the strong, active, positive man, as he puts it, ready to fix the world. Talk about hubris.
Definitely. And then there's Margaret Avery as Heather Lalache, the lawyer who gets caught up in all the reality shifts.
This is really strong core cast.
Yeah.
And when it first aired on PBS, it was actually a big deal for them.
Really? How did it do?
It was one of their 2 highest-rated shows that whole season in 1980. Pulled in something like a 10% audience share just in New York, which was huge for PBS. It showed people were hungry for this kind of smarter sci-fi.
And critically, how does it hold up score-wise?
Pretty well. It's got a 7.1 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes shows 72% from critics, and a decent audience score, too, over 500 ratings there. But maybe more telling, it got nominated for a Hugo Award.
Best Dramatic Presentation. That's a serious nod from the sci-fi community itself.
Absolutely. It wasn't just a quirky TV movie, it had substance.
But then it kind of disappeared, right, for a long time.
It did. This is part of its legend. The broadcast rights expired around 1988, and it just vanished. For almost 20 years, it was basically lost media, just circulating on dodgy VHS tapes.
Becoming almost mythical.
Totally. It got this reputation as the most requested program in PBS history. People remembered it, wanted to see it again, but couldn't, until it finally got a DVD release in 2000.
And that disappearance and return actually ties into a concept you mentioned earlier, hauntology. Can you explain that a bit more? What is hauntology in this context?
Sure. So hauntology, it's this idea about how the past, or maybe futures that never happened, sort of linger and intrude on the present. With Lathe of Heaven, it works on a couple of levels. Right. First, the film itself became like a ghost for decades, right? Something people knew existed but couldn't access. That's one kind of haunting.
Right, the lost media aspect.
But more importantly, it's central to the plot. George Orr's dreams, they don't cleanly erase the old reality. They just pave over it. Bits of the previous timeline, the previous world, keep bleeding through. The past is always haunting the present reality he's in.
Just like the film itself haunted the archives. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's this theme of fragmented memory, of realities layered on top of each other, never quite settling. That's really key to the whole thing.
That leads us perfectly into the core mechanic, the engine of the story George Orr's power, these affective dreams.
Yeah, and it's crucial to get this. They aren't just bad dreams. They literally change reality. And history rewrites itself so everyone thinks the new reality is the way things always were. Except, usually, George.
And he hates it. He's actively trying to drug himself to stop dreaming, which is how he ends up with Dr. Haber.
Right, Dr. William Haber. The psychiatrist, but specifically the neurologist. The dream guy, or sees his power as this terrible affliction. Haber. He immediately sees it as the ultimate tool.
A tool for what he thinks is improvement, right?
Yeah.
He sees Orr's desire to just leave things alone as, like, a weakness.
Exactly. Haber thinks he's the one who should be in charge. He's the strong, active one who can use this power responsibly to, fix everything. It's pure technological hubris. He wants to engineer utopia using Orr's mind.
So from our AI perspective, Haber is almost like an early AI engineer trying to program reality.
That's a great way to put it. He treats Orr's brain like the core processor, the organic component, the wetware, and his machine, the augmentor, is the interface, the control panel.
The augmentor. Let's talk about that machine. Its job is basically to monitor and, well, boost or guide George's brainwaves while he's dreaming, right? To control the reality changes.
Precisely. It's the mechanism Haber builds to harness and direct this incredible power.
And the way the film shows the augmentor changing over time is brilliant, especially given the low budget. It visually tracks Haber's growing ambition, his megalomania, without needing lots of dialogue. It happens in phases.
Yeah, 3 distinct phases. Phase 1, it looks almost like, 1970s science lab equipment. You've got oscilloscopes showing these cool, mesmerizing patterns, video art basically, representing brainwaves.
And those big, clunky LED counters.
Those two, all housed under this clear plastic dome over George's head. It feels experimental, almost cautious.
Right.
And importantly, those glowing readouts, the oscilloscopes, they're some of the only bits of bright color in the early scenes. Everything else is so drab and gray.
Highlighting the technology, making it stand out.
Right. It signifies the potential, the attempt to understand.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
or have the dream where he gives Haber this huge, prestigious institute. Haber basically demands it.
And the machine changes. Phase 2.
Phase 2. Suddenly the augmentor isn't this little tabletop device. It's enormous. A massive supercomputer. A monolith of geometry, as the source describes it. It's housed in this stark, concrete building, the new Institute of Neurology.
So the tech scales up with Haber's ambition and influence.
Exactly. It's gone from science experiment to this imposing symbol of institutional power.
Right.
It's colder, more corporate, demanding respect almost.
And then the final phase, this is when Haber is really losing it, trying his last big reality change in his palace of dreams.
Right. And here, the augmentor, it's not even recognizably a computer anymore. It's transformed into this cryptic, glowing white object, like a talisman or a futuristic idol.
Wow. So it's moved beyond science entirely.
Completely. It symbolizes the total failure of the technological approach, or at least Hader's approach. He stopped trying to understand reality. He's just trying to command it through this thing he's built, treating it like magic.
The AI proxy has become an object of worship, blind faith in the machine.
It's the ultimate symbol of his hubris. He thinks that tech gives him the right, the power, to be God, which ties into Le Guin's Taoist influences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you elaborate on that? The idea of wu wei, or non-action, and how it contrasts with Haber's approach.
Sure. So wu wei is a core Taoist idea. It doesn't mean doing literally nothing, but more like effortless action. Going with the flow, letting things take their natural course, understanding that trying to force absolute control, especially aggressively, just creates more problems, more imbalance.
And Orr, who just wants the dreaming to stop, embodies that more.
In a way, yes. His actions, when he does act through dreaming, are usually reactions trying to undo the messes Haber creates. He's trying to restore some kind of balance, often reluctantly. Haber, the scientist, the technologist, sees this as weakness. But every single time Haber tries to impose his perfect solution, and war, and overpopulation, and racism, it backfires horribly.
Because reality is too complex, too chaotic.
Exactly. Reality, in this view, resists that kind of rigid top-down control. Haber's technological arrogance keeps getting punished by these awful unintended consequences.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about how they actually made this film visually. That $250,000 budget meant they had to visualize huge concepts, billions dying, alien invasions without any money for big effects.
Yeah, they had to get metaphorical. They couldn't show the spectacle, so they had to make you feel it through atmosphere and clever staging.
The plague sequence is maybe the best example. Haber gets Orr to dream away overpopulation, and boom, 3/4 of humanity is wiped out. How do they show that?
Not with empty cities or anything like that. Instead, we get that incredibly creepy dinner banquet dream sequence.
Talk about the cinematography there. How did they achieve that effect?
It's all about minimalism and contrast, drawing from that video art background. You see this brightly lit dinner table, perfectly set, guests sitting there, but it's floating in absolute blackness. No background, no context.
Which makes it feel really unreal or hyper-real somehow.
Exactly. More real than real, as one description puts it. And then as the reality shifts, the guests just decay instantly. They freeze, and then they're draped in this shimmering gauzy cloth.
It's horrifying, but purely symbolic. You understand the scale of death without seeing a single wide shot of destruction.
It's brilliant low-budget filmmaking,
Yeah.
pure visual metaphor born out of necessity.
And they use similar suggestive techniques for the environment too, right? Showing the shift from a dreary, rainy Portland to something better.
Yeah. The early scenes establish this near-future Portland as really grim.
Yeah.
Muted colors, lots of shadows, kind of neo-noir lighting. Everyone's wearing these identical, depressing gray rain slickers because it's always raining.
Then Orr dreams the rain away.
And the change is shown so simply. They just flood the scenes with brighter light, actual sunlight color, the shadows vanish. And immediately, people are wearing brightly colored clothes instead of the gray smocks.
Again, communicating a massive global change. The end of constant rain just with light and costume color costs almost nothing, but the effect is huge.
It's incredibly efficient storytelling. You feel the world change instantly.
Okay, but what about when they couldn't rely on metaphor, like the aliens? They had to show something.
Right, and that's where the low budget becomes, well, more visible and kind of charmingly funny. Le Guin herself was pretty blunt about it. The aliens who appear in the let's unite humanity against a common enemy dream,
They were just guys in rubber suits.
pretty much, described as turtle-like.
Mm.
And the directors didn't try to make them terrifying. They sort of leaned into the slightly B-movie feel, comparing them to the creatures in the BBC's Hitchhiker's Guide, which had a similar vibe.
And the details of the budget limitations are amazing, like the aliens' arms.
Yeah, Le Guin mentioned they literally had to decide which one arm the alien puppet could afford to have move. They couldn't budget for both.
Wow. And the spaceships.
The invading alien spaceships, they were just frisbees. Literally frisbees, apparently held up on sticks or something.
That's incredible. But again, it forces you to engage with the idea, right? The idea of invasion, not the visual effect itself.
Precisely. It's about the concept. They trusted the audience to fill in the blanks, to understand the meaning, even if the execution was basic. It makes the film about ideas, not just sights.
And they showed similar ambition even when tackling social issues visually, like Haber's attempt to cure racism.
Yeah, that results in everyone turning this uniform shade of gray.
Hmm.
And visually, that was tough.
How did they handle it?
They went the hard route. They used practical makeup, covering all the actors in this gray pigment. Apparently, it would have been way easier and cheaper just to use black and white filters or something.
But they wanted the physical change to be there.
Right. It shows their commitment to the concept. Even if the makeup maybe wasn't perfect, you could still sometimes see the actors' original skin tones underneath. The ambition to visualize the bland uniformity was there, even if the budget limited the execution.
By the way, if you liked and interested so far, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It's really important for us to continue this series.
Yeah, definitely helps us keep these deep dives going.
Okay, let's move on to another key visual element. The locations, the use of architecture, the mise en scène. For listeners, mise en scène just means everything you see within the frame, the setting, props, actors, lighting, how the whole visual world is arranged.
And this is crucial because remember, the story is set in Portland, Oregon. But they didn't shoot there.
They shot in Texas, right? Dallas and Fort Worth to
Right.
save money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they cleverly used the existing architecture there specifically. These big, imposing buildings from the 70s, lots of brutalism, early postmodern stuff.
Dallas City Hall, that big concrete structure.
That's one. And also the Tandy Center in Fort Worth, which interestingly was the headquarters for Radio Shack's parent company, Tandy Corporation. This place was massive, Very futuristic for its time. It even had its own private subway.
So using these real places gave them a futuristic look on the cheap.
It did. But it also did more. These huge, slightly cold, impersonal structures conveyed the kind of grandeur and, well, maybe emptiness that Haber was aiming for with his institute. Especially after the plague dream, those vast concrete plazas and corridors look eerily empty. They feel like places that should be full of people.
So the architecture reinforces the themes of imposed order and its potential hollowness.
Absolutely. And it also ties back to that idea of hauntology we talked about. These buildings, kind of dated now, but representing a specific vision of the future from the 70s, they feel like ghosts of a particular ambition.
And the film visually mixes time periods too, doesn't it? In the shots of Portland.
Yes, exactly. You'll see skylines that mix old church steeples right next to these blocky, modern, brutalist apartment buildings.
Yeah.
It suggests that the different realities George creates are just layered on top of each other. The past isn't erased, it's just underneath. The old bits keep showing through.
Like fragments of memory. Which brings us to maybe the most significant artifact in the film that resists the changes. Not a building, but a record.
Ah, yes. The 45 RPM single. The Beatles, with a little help from my friends.
Such a specific, evocative choice. How does it function in the plot?
It's really poignant. After the alien invasion dream, George is in this antique shop, and it's run by one of the turtle-like aliens. And this alien gives George the record.
Okay.
And this record, this piece of music from a lost timeline, is what helps George remember Heather Laloche. Because remember, in the reality where Haber cured racism by making everyone gray.
Heather, as a black woman, just ceased to exist in people's memories.
Exactly. She disappeared from that reality's history. The song acts as a key, unlocking George's buried memory of her, bringing her back into focus for him, at least temporarily. It helps set things right for a moment.
That's beautiful. But the story behind using that specific song is also tied to the film's real-world struggles, isn't it?
Oh, deeply. Getting the rights to use the actual Beatles recording was a huge deal and very expensive for a PBS production. It was one of the major reasons the film became so difficult, almost impossible, to re-air or re-release for years. The cost of licensing that one song was prohibitive.
So the artifact that unlocks memory in the film became a real-world artifact that was incredibly rare and hard to access.
Precisely. It's this perfect irony. And when they did finally manage to release the DVD in 2000, they couldn't afford the original Beatles track. They had to use a cover version.
No.
Yeah. So the very thing that represented the irretrievable value of a past cultural moment proved too costly to retrieve in reality for the re-release. It just perfectly underscores the theme. These fragments of past realities or past culture have immense, sometimes non-negotiable value.
That's an incredible layer of meaning where the film's production limitations actually mirrored its own themes. Hey, listener, do you have any other idea or question about this? Please write in comments.
It really is fascinating how the constraints shape the meaning. So as we get towards the end of the story, everything kind of comes crashing down. Heber's ambition goes into overdrive.
Right, or realizes he has to stop Haber's final massive attempt to impose his perfect reality. And Haber, who's basically addicted to the power now, tries to use the augmenter on himself.
The machine that's now become this glowing idol, and the result is chaos.
Yeah.
Reality collapses into this jumbled mess of all the previous realities Haber forced into existence.
But Orr manages to stabilize it. Sort of.
Yeah, he brings it to a kind of equilibrium. It's not the original reality. It's not any of Haber's utopias. It's messy, inconsistent, full of fragments from different timelines, but it's relatively stable. It stops shifting.
And what happens to Haber, the architect of all this?
His fate is the ultimate warning, really. He's left catatonic in a wheelchair, completely broken by the machine he tried to master. And he's haunted, specifically, by visions of the first reality, or dreamed away the one destroyed by nuclear war back in April.
The very disaster he thought he could fix and improve upon.
Exactly. The would-be controller of reality is trapped by the memory of the reality he couldn't accept. It's a total failure of his approach.
So, bringing back the AI lens, the film is a stark warning about unchecked power through technology, isn't it? The augmentor, this AI proxy, wielded by someone with Haber's hubris, inevitably leads to destruction.
Absolutely. It's a powerful statement that you can't just engineer away chaos or human imperfection. The system, however sophisticated, breaks down when driven by that kind of ambition, ignoring the natural complexity, the Tao, if you will.
And Le Guin's close involvement really kept that philosophical core front and center.
Without a doubt. That's why this 1980 version holds up so well, I think. It's remembered, it's a cult classic, because it prioritizes ideas over action, Philosophy over special effects. It proved you could make incredibly intelligent, thought-provoking sci-fi without a Hollywood budget.
It really celebrates the power of conceptual depth. The constraints forced a kind of creativity that maybe wouldn't have happened otherwise.
It makes you think, doesn't it? About the nature of reality, about memory, and about the danger of anyone or anything having the power to rewrite it all.
It leaves you wondering, if reality is fundamentally messy and complex, maybe the biggest mistake is thinking technology can or even should impose perfect order onto it.
That feels like a very resonant question, especially today.
See you on next episode. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next week, Scene Files. Bye-bye.